The day I caught my fiancé cheating on me was supposed to be my wedding day. We were halfway through the reception when the hotel manager, his face pale, pulled me aside. He stammered something about a clogged toilet in the bridal suite. The door was locked from the inside, he said, and there were strange noises. I pushed past him, my jaw tight. I kicked the door open, and there she was. Chloe, my Chloe, in her immaculate white wedding dress, tangled up with my best man, my best friend, Kevin, in a position so degrading it turned my stomach. The cramped bathroom reeked of cheap cologne, champagne, and the sickening stench of betrayal. Time froze. A roar filled my head, a million furious bees. My hands went numb, but my blood was on fire, rushing to my brain. The sound of the door, crashing open, made Chloe shriek. She scrambled to push Kevin off her. And Kevin, the guy I'd known since we were kids, the brother I never had, just stared back at me, his eyes bloodshot like some feral animal caught in the act. For a split second, I saw panic on his face, but was immediately replaced by a defiant, ugly smirk. He didn't even bother to get up. He just looked at me, a challenge in his eyes. My fists clenched, knuckles white. I wanted to launch myself at them, to tear them limb from limb. But a sliver of ice-cold reason pierced through the rage. Impulse is the devil, and I couldn't afford to be the devil. Not today. I took a step back, pulled out my iPhone, and coolly started recording. The flash went off with a clinical click, a spotlight of judgment, freezing their sordid tableau for eternity. Caleb, what are you doing? Are you insane? Chloe finally broke free, hysterically trying to smooth her ruined dress. Kevin slowly got to his feet, adjusting his own wrinkled tuxedo. He looked at me with an expression of pure contempt, mixed with a disgusting sort of pity. You see now? Caleb, just drop the act. You really think she loves you? My gaze was glacial. I ignored his taunt, keeping the camera steady, panning slowly from their panicked faces to the discarded clothes on the floor, then to their disheveled bodies. Every detail, every second, was now admissible in court. Guests and hotel staff, drawn by the commotion, had begun to gather in the hallway. A wave of gasps and shocked whispers rippled through the crowd as they saw the scene inside. Disgusted looks, murmurs, a collective intake of breath. All of it aimed like 1,000 tiny needles at the once radiant bride and her best man. My future in-laws, Chloe's parents, pushed their way to the front. When they saw what was happening, her mother let out a strangled cry and nearly fainted. Her father's face went a shade of purple I'd never seen before. He pointed a trembling finger at Chloe, shaking with fury. You shameless tramp. He raised his hand as if to strike her, but let it fall, instead pounding his own chest, his eyes welling with tears. I stopped the recording and pocketed my phone, my calm, so absolute it felt alien, even to me. The more furious I became, the colder I got. The real show was just beginning. I turned to face the crowded hallway, my voice steady, but loud enough for everyone to hear. Ladies and gentlemen, our friends and family, thank you all for coming to celebrate with me today. The hallway fell silent. Every eye was on me, waiting for the explosion. I paused, then offered a small, apologetic smile. I'm sorry, there's been a slight change of plans. The wedding is officially canceled. Please, enjoy the reception. It's all on my tab. Consider it. The price of admission for the drama of the year. I even gave a slight bow. No shouting, no crying, no breakdown. The sheer, unnerving calm of it seemed to hit them harder than any tantrum could have. Chloe's face turned ashen. She probably wanted me to cause a scene, to scream and yell, so she could play the part of the sympathetic, flawed victim. I wasn't going to give her the satisfaction. I walked over to the shell-shocked hotel manager and clapped him on the shoulder. Sir, I need to borrow your sound system. He nodded dumbly. Microphone in hand, I walked back onto the stage that, just moments before, had been the altar of our supposed happiness. The spotlight found me, and hundreds of pairs of eyes locked onto me. First, again, thank you all for being here, I began, clearing my throat. Second, I have an announcement. Due to the fact that the bride, Miss Chloe Martin, was just discovered in the bridal suite engaging in activities far exceeding the bounds of friendship with my best man, Mr. Kevin Ford, I am unilaterally declaring this wedding null and void, effective immediately. The room erupted. I didn't stop, but, so as not to let this lovely party go to waste, I've decided to end this farce with something a little more entertaining. I took out my phone and airplayed it to the massive screens flanking the stage. The next second, the video I had just filmed appeared in high definition for all to see. Chloe's piercing shriek, Kevin's shameless grunts, their bodies twisted in a grotesque parody of intimacy. It was all there, broadcast to our horrified guests. The clamor in the room died instantly, replaced by a tomb-like silence punctuated by sharp, horrified gasps. Chloe covered her face and let out a desperate, guttural wail, looking like she wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Her parents were beyond mortified. Her mother collapsed into her chair, sobbing uncontrollably. Kevin's parents were in the audience, too, a quiet, working-class couple who now looked like they had aged 20 years and 20 seconds, their faces drained of all color. I watched it all, my heart a frozen rock. You want to humiliate me at my own wedding? You'd better be ready for the consequences. This was just the appetizer. After 15 seconds, I cut the video. The point had been made. I wasn't trying to distribute pornography. I was just establishing the facts, preemptively shutting down any lies Chloe's family or Kevin might try to spin later. I put down the microphone and walked off the stage, the complex stares of our guests following my every step. As I passed the Martins' table, Chloe's father shot up to block my path, his face still flushed a deep red. His voice was a ragged plea. Caleb, for the sake of the friendship between our families, please leave Chloe a little dignity. She just made a mistake. I stopped and looked at him, my expression utterly cold. Dignity? I let out a short, mirthless laugh. Mr. Martin, the moment I kicked down that door, she had already taken her dignity and my family's and thrown it on the floor to be trampled. I'm just showing everyone what's already there. How is that my fault? But you don't air your dirty laundry in public, her mother cried, stumbling over to me and grabbing my pant leg. Caleb, please let us go. We'll give you back the gifts, double. We'll give you double. Just delete the video. I'm begging you. Double? I sneered internally. If this could be solved with money, life would be simple. Before I could answer, Kevin lunged forward, shoving Mrs. Martin aside. He got in my face, his voice dripping with venom. Caleb, what kind of man are you? If you can't have her, you destroy her? You think you're so noble? You're nothing but a controlling, narcissistic prick. I looked at his face, twisted with jealousy and rage, and finally felt a flicker of emotion. Kevin, I said, my voice dangerously quiet. I've known you for 20 years. As far as I'm concerned, I've never done you wrong. My dad paid your way through college. When you couldn't find a job after graduation, I got you a position at my family's company. When you were short on the down payment for your apartment, I wired you 50 grand without a second thought. I treated you like a brother. And you? With every word, the color drained from his face. This is how you repay me? By screwing my fiancée? At my own wedding? My voice rose, tight with suppressed fury. What right do you have to stand there and judge me? Kevin was speechless. His mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Finally, he spat. That was all your parents' money, not yours. What do you have to be so proud of? You were just born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You're right. I admitted without shame. Then my tone turned lethal. But you're about to find out that being born with a silver spoon is a kind of power you can't even begin to comprehend. I turned my back on the pathetic clowns and walked out. My parents had been standing silently off to the side. My father, a man who was a shark in the boardroom, had a face like thunder, his eyes blazing. My mother just looked at me, her own eyes red with unshed tears of pain and anger. I walked up to them. Dad, let's go home. My father nodded grimly. Before leaving, he shot one long look at the ashen-faced Martins and Fords. It was the kind of look you give to the dead. The three of us left the disaster zone that was my wedding. The car ride was thick with a terrible, oppressive silence. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice choked with emotion. Caleb, honey, it's my fault. I was the one who misjudged her, who thought that Chloe girl was so quiet and sweet. Mom, it's not your fault. I cut her off. I was the one who was blind. My father said nothing, but his knuckles were white on the steering wheel. As we neared our house, he finally spoke, his voice a low rumble. Son, how do I want to handle this? How did I want to handle this? If it were just a simple case of cheating, I would have cut them out of my life and never looked back. But Kevin's last words had set off alarm bells. That was all your parents' money, not yours. You were just born with a silver spoon in your mouth. This wasn't just jealousy. This was a deep, festering resentment. Why would a man who owed his entire adult life to my family's generosity harbor such hatred? And then there was Chloe. We'd been dating for 2 years. She had always been the epitome of gentle and considerate, completely devoted to me. Her family was middle class, but my parents never looked down on her. For this wedding, my family had not only bought a condo for us outright and put her name on the deed, but had also given her family a wedding gift of $250,000. So why would she betray me? And why on our wedding day, in the most extreme and idiotic way possible? If it was just for a cheap thrill, the timing was insane. If she was in love with Kevin, why not just break up with me? Something wasn't right. Dad, I said, meeting his eyes in the rearview mirror, this isn't as simple as it looks. I'm not letting this go. He gave me a look of surprise, then a nod of grim satisfaction. Good. You're Richard Reed's son, all right. Do what you have to do. Whatever you need, the family's behind you. Back home, I locked myself in my study and started piecing everything together. The wedding was a bust, my reputation was in tatters, and a fortune had been spent. The Martins would undoubtedly fight me over the $250,000 gift and the condo. Legally, even though the wedding wasn't completed, getting gifts back isn't always easy, especially when her name was already on the property deed. But that was the point of what I did today. I had to ruin them socially to pave the way for the legal battle to come. Sometimes public opinion and moral pressure are more powerful than any legal statute. I opened my laptop, went to Reddit, created a throwaway account, and started typing. The post title was simple and brutal. Live. Witness my friend's fiancé and best man blow up his NYC wedding. The absolute trashiest thing you'll see all year. I didn't use my real name, just wrote as a guest. I laid out the whole story, from the romantic beginning to the disgusting scene in the bathroom to the groom's cold, calculated revenge on the big screen. I didn't post the video, of course, but I included a few heavily blurred screenshots. The text alone was explosive enough. Less than 30 minutes after I posted it, the thread went viral. The comment section was a wildfire of outrage. Holy shit, a modern-day soap opera. Some people have no shame. Good for the groom. That's how you handle trash. Don't give them an inch. I feel so bad for him. Someone find out who these two are. They need to be canceled. Permanently. It didn't take long. Reddit detectives, using clues like the hotel and wedding planner tags, quickly dug up Chloe and Kevin's full names and places of employment. Chloe was a tutor at a high-end test prep center. And Kevin? He was a team lead in the marketing department at my family's company, Reed Industries. The firestorm of public outrage immediately engulfed their employers. I watched the upvotes and comments climb into the thousands, a cold smirk on my face. Chloe, Kevin, this was only the beginning. Next, I would show you the true cost of betrayal. Just then my phone rang. An unknown number. I answered. A man's voice, hushed and nervous. Is this Mr. Reed? It is. Who's this? I'm from the videography team at the wedding. Mr. Reed, I have something here. I think you might be very interested in it. My heart skipped a beat. What is it? Before all that happened today, we set up a camera in the bridal suite, to get some candid shots of the bride touching up her makeup, talking with her bridesmaids, that kind of thing. The videographer's voice was a mix of tension and excitement. When everything went down, it was too chaotic to go in there. We just packed up our main gear, but I was just offloading the memory cards when I realized that camera in the suite, it was on the whole time. I understood instantly. That camera had recorded everything that happened in the suite before I kicked the door in. Send me the full, unedited video file, I commanded, my voice leaving no room for argument. Name your price. Mr. Reed, don't worry about the money, he said quickly. Our whole team thinks what they did was disgusting. We're happy to help you out. We just hope you can keep us out of it. You have my word, I promised. A few minutes later, an encrypted video file landed in my inbox. I took a deep breath and clicked play. The video started with Chloe and her bridesmaids laughing and chatting. After a bit, the bridesmaids left to mingle with the guests, leaving Chloe alone. She stood in front of the mirror, looking at herself in the pristine white dress. But the expression on her face wasn't the joy or nervousness of a bride. It was something complex, a mix of impatience and avarice. The door opened. Kevin walked in. He locked it behind him, crossed the room in 3 strides, and pulled her into a rough embrace. His voice was thick with a desperate, greedy hunger. Chloe, I can't wait anymore. Chloe feigned resistance, though she didn't push him away. Are you crazy? The place is crawling with people. Caleb could walk in at any second. So what? Kevin sneered. Once you're married, he's just the official chump. We get what we came for, kick him to the curb, and then we're free. My blood ran cold. My pupils constricted. This wasn't a spontaneous act of passion. It was a cold, calculated conspiracy. Their conversation on the video continued. I'm still nervous, Chloe said, a worried frown on her face. That prenup, are you sure it'll work? What if he finds out what we're planning? A prenup? I froze. We did sign a prenuptial agreement. Chloe had been the one to suggest it. The terms were simple, mostly stating that our pre-existing assets would remain separate. But there was one crucial clause she'd insisted on. If I, Caleb Reed, were to be unfaithful during the marriage, 50% of my entire personal net worth will be transferred to her as damages, no questions asked. At the time, I thought it was quaint. I thought she wasn't after my money, that she was just protecting herself, a sign of her insecurity. I signed it without a second thought, thinking she was endearingly innocent. Now I realized I was a monumental fool. Don't worry. Kevin's voice oozed confidence in the video. I had one of the best lawyers in the city look it over. It's airtight. All we have to do is find the right opportunity, set him up with some other woman, get a few pictures, and leak it to the press. The Reeds can't afford that kind of scandal. They'll pay up to make it go away. Then, a cool 100 million, maybe more. We split it and disappear. 100 million. Their ambition was breathtaking. I was shaking with fury, my nails digging so deep into my palms, I thought they'd draw blood. I believed this was a dirty, sordid affair. I never imagined that behind the facade of love and brotherhood was a plot so venomous, so greedy. They didn't want love. They wanted my family's fortune. Then, what are we doing here now? Chloe asked, still sounding uneasy. Kevin's grin turned feral as his hands started to wander. What do you think? We're celebrating our future success. Besides, you're about to become Mrs. Caleb Reed. I have to take my last chance to get a taste of the future Mrs. Reed, don't I? The rest of the video was a sickening display, right up until the moment I kicked the door in. I closed the file and leaned back in my chair, shutting my eyes. A chilling coldness crept up from my feet and consumed me. The rage had passed, leaving behind an arctic void. My 2 years of carefully nurtured love had been nothing but an elaborate scam. My 20 years of brotherhood had been a stepping stone for a backstabbing parasite. To them, I was just Caleb Reed, the lucky sperm, the rich, gullible Mark. After a long moment, I opened my eyes. The last trace of warmth was gone, replaced by pure, predatory intent. You want to play dirty? Fine. Now we play by my rules. I picked up my phone and called my father's personal attorney, the head of our corporate legal team, Leo Hoffman. Leo, it's Caleb. I need your help, I said, getting straight to the point. I'm suing Chloe Martin and Kevin Ford for fraud. Leo was silent for a second. Caleb? Fraud? What are you talking about? A dispute over wedding gifts is a civil matter. It's very difficult to make a case for criminal fraud. What if they entered into a marriage contract with the sole intent of illegal acquisition? By fabricating facts, concealing the truth, and defrauding me of my trust in order to gain access to my assets? And what if I have definitive proof? I gave him the condensed version of what I'd seen on the video and the details of the prenup. Leo, a veteran of countless corporate battles, immediately grasped the gravity of the situation. Caleb, are you absolutely certain this video is authentic and its source is reliable? Leo's voice had become sharp and serious. 100%. Good, he said, his tone decisive. Send me the original video file and a copy of the prenuptial agreement immediately. If we can prove this, it's not just a civil dispute. This is felony fraud, attempted. Even though they didn't succeed, they took substantial steps to commit the crime. With a complete chain of evidence, this is more than enough to put them behind bars for a very long time. After hanging up, I sent all the files to Leo. A weight lifted from my chest, but prison wasn't enough. I wanted to turn every one of their ambitions to ash. I wanted them to know what it felt like to fall from the clouds and land in the gutter. The next morning, the head of HR at Reed Industries called me. Mr. Reed, Kevin Ford didn't show up for work today. We can't reach him. He's got several key projects at a critical stage and... Fire him, I said coldly. Sir? Fire him? The manager stuttered, clearly shocked. Yes, immediately. For gross misconduct and damaging the company's reputation. Terminate his contract and don't pay him a dime in severance, I instructed. And tell the legal department to prepare a lawsuit against him to recover all company-paid training expenses and to sue him for damages related to the theft of trade secrets. Theft of trade secrets. The manager was completely lost now. That's right. I tapped my fingers on the desk. I got Kevin his job here. He had access to a lot of our core client data and unreleased marketing strategies. If he could betray me for money, he could betray the company for money. Have IT seize his work computer immediately. I want a full forensic analysis of his emails, file transfers, everything. See if he's been in contact with any of our competitors. This was a move I'd planned overnight. Kevin and Chloe's scheme to get my personal fortune was ambitious, but also high risk. A man as greedy and impatient as Kevin would surely have other ways of making a quick buck. Selling company secrets to a rival was the fastest way to do it. If I could nail him for that, he wouldn't just be a cheater, he'd be a corporate spy. Right away, Mr. Reed. I'm on it, the manager said, understanding the urgency. With Kevin handled, it was time for Chloe. That afternoon, Leo called with good news. Caleb, that video is the smoking gun. I've already filed 2 civil suits. The first is to demand the full return of the $250,000 cash gift and reimbursement for all wedding expenses. The second is to petition the court to rescind the gift of property, which means getting her name off the condo's deed. Will the court support it? I asked. It's a slam dunk, Leo said confidently. We have overwhelming evidence that the defendant entered the marriage contract under false pretenses with the intent to defraud. This constitutes fraud in the inducement, which makes the contract, and all actions based on it, voidable. The gifts and the property were predicated on a valid marriage. Since the foundation of that marriage was a lie, all associated gifts must be returned. As for the criminal case, Leo added, I've already filed a police report on your behalf. The DA's office has accepted the case and opened a fraud investigation. The moment they bring Kevin and Chloe in for questioning and show them that video, they won't have a leg to stand on. I let out a long breath. It paid to have professionals on your side. Leo, thank you. Don't mention it. I've known you since you were in diapers. He chuckled. But I have to say, Caleb, the way you've handled this. Calm, collected, strategic. Your father will be very proud. The weight on my shoulders felt even lighter. Online, the WeddingGate scandal continued to rage. The test prep center, where Chloe worked, buckling under the pressure of the negative publicity, posted an official statement on their Twitter, announcing that due to a serious lapse in personal integrity that has damaged the institution's reputation, Chloe Martin had been terminated, effective immediately. Just like that, both Chloe and Kevin were unemployed. I could almost picture them, hounded by the public, crushed by the weight of reality. But I had underestimated their shamelessness. That evening, after a day of silence, Chloe posted a long, rambling essay on Twitter. In thousands of carefully crafted words, she painted herself as a tragic heroine, a woman blinded by love, manipulated by a scoundrel, and suffocated by a controlling, wealthy fiancé me. In her post, she tearfully claimed, first, she admitted her mistake with Kevin at the wedding, but alleged it was because he had been gaslighting and manipulating her for months, convincing her he was her true love, and she had a moment of weakness. Second, she pivoted to attacking me. She described me as a possessive monster who forbade her from having a social life, and even checked her phone, making her feel trapped. Third, and most viciously, she implied that the prenup was an unequal contract I had forced her to sign. She claimed the reason I was so calm, while recording her, was that I was looking for an excuse to call off the wedding and seize assets that were rightfully hers. To cap it all off, she attached a photo of her arm with a faint bruise, implying I had been physically abusive. The essay was a masterpiece of manipulation, perfectly designed to incite sympathy. Instantly, the tide of public opinion began to turn. Countless people who didn't know the facts, especially women, started defending Chloe and attacking me. So, it's a story about an abusive rich guy and his poor victim? I knew there was more to it. Domestic abusers are the worst. He deserved to be cheated on. It takes two to tango. This guy's obviously part of the problem. I stared at the vile comments, a vein throbbing in my temple. The audacity was astounding. That bruise? It was from a week ago when she'd slipped while we were rock climbing. I'd spent half an hour icing it for her. And controlling? I'd asked her not to go clubbing until 3 a.m. with people I knew were bad news. Was that so wrong? This was a vicious, calculated smear campaign. My father saw the news and was so enraged he smashed his teacup against the wall. The absolute nerve. How dare they? When has the Reed family name ever been dragged through the mud like this? Dad, don't get angry, I said, forcing myself to stay calm. She's desperate. This just proves she has something to hide. But the public opinion, my mother said, her voice laced with worry. Public opinion is like the wind. You can stir it up and you can shut it down, I said, a dangerous glint in my eye. She want to play? I'll play. I called Leo. Leo, prepare a second lawsuit. For what? Defamation. I want her to pay legally for every single word she just posted online. But just as I was preparing for an all-out war in the court of public opinion, an unexpected call revealed a far more shocking secret at the heart of this whole affair. The call was from the director of our company's IT department. Mr. Reed, we have a major discovery, he said, his voice grim. We followed your instructions and did a deep data recovery on Kevin Ford's work computer. We found some emails and transfer records he had permanently deleted. What kind of records? I asked, my heart pounding. They're email exchanges between him and Warren Hayes, the vice president of Vanguard Dynamics. Vanguard Dynamics. The name hit me like a physical blow. Vanguard was our biggest rival in the domestic market. We had clashed with them on several major deals over the past 2 years. We were sharks circling the same waters. And Kevin was talking to their VP. What did the emails say? I demanded. The contents are explosive, the director said, lowering his voice. It looks like starting a year ago, Kevin was regularly feeding Warren Hayes internal company data, client lists, our bottom line pricing on bids, even core data from several new projects still in R&D. In return, Hayes wired him over $1 million, funneled through an offshore account. $1 million. No wonder he was so confident about buying a place. No wonder he was bold enough to conspire with Chloe on such a grand scale. He had already sold out the company. He had a much bigger benefactor. And that's not all, the director continued. In the last email, Kevin wrote, "The fish is on the hook. After the wedding, once I get my hands on the Reed Industries succession plan, it's game over." The succession plan. A chill shot down my spine. Reed Industries was in the middle of a major restructuring. The plan was to transfer a controlling interest to me, giving me a formal seat on the board and paving the way for me to take over as CEO. This was the company's most guarded secret, known only to me, my father, and a handful of top executives. How did Kevin know about it? And he mentioned after the wedding. He was planning to use his marriage to Chloe to get closer to me, to become family, all to steal the one document that held the key to our company's future. It was all a lie. Defrauding me of my personal assets was just step one, a smokescreen. Their real target was the entire Reed Industries empire. Chloe, Kevin, they were just pawns, and standing behind them was Vanguard Dynamics. This was a full-blown corporate espionage plot, using a honey trap and a false friendship as weapons to destroy my family from inside. Everything suddenly clicked into place. Why cause a scene on the wedding day? Maybe they weren't stupid. Maybe my sudden appearance just threw their plan off schedule. Or, more likely, Vanguard was pressuring them to act fast, so they took a desperate gamble and failed. That videographer and his camera. It was a miracle. If it weren't for that video exposing their initial plan to steal my money, I'd still be in the dark, fighting a messy civil suit about a cheating fiancé in a condo. "Mr. Reed, are you still there?" the director asked. "I'm here," I said, my voice so cold it could have frozen water. "Secure all of that evidence immediately. Encrypt it and send me a copy. This information does not leave this room. No one else is to know." "Understood. Understood." I hung up and sat in silence for a long time. Then I called my father and told him everything. The silence on his end was so profound, I thought the call had dropped. Finally, he spoke, his voice carrying the chilling authority of a seasoned general. "That damn Warren Hayes. Vanguard Dynamics. They're trying to burn us to the ground." "Dad, this isn't the time for anger," I said, forcing myself to think strategically. "We can't move on Kevin just yet. If we have him arrested for corporate espionage now, Vanguard will sever all ties, and we'll never get the big fish." "What's your plan?" my father asked. "We turn the tables," I said, each word deliberate. "They want our succession plan? Fine, we'll give them one." A meticulous plan began to form in my mind. Step 1. Pacify Kevin. I had to make him believe his only problem was the affair with Chloe being exposed. He had to think that, as long as he handled that mess, he was in the clear. I instructed Leo to temporarily suspend all legal action against Kevin and focus the full legal assault on Chloe. We filed a new motion with the court, submitting Chloe's defamatory Twitter post as evidence and demanding a public apology and $1 million in damages for emotional distress. The court quickly issued the summons. Chloe, hit with one legal blow after another, was completely overwhelmed. Her sob story was a joke in the face of hard evidence, and the public tide turned against her again. Now she was facing not only massive financial penalties, but also potential jail time for fraud and defamation. Meanwhile, Kevin, seeing that I was only going after Chloe, would breathe a sigh of relief. He would assume I was holding back out of some misguided sentiment for our old friendship, or that I just wanted to resolve the family drama quickly. Step 2. Lure the snake from its hole. I had my father discreetly let it be known that the wedding scandal had made him question my competence, and that my promotion to the board was indefinitely postponed. At the same time, I started to act the part of the broken man. I deliberately had myself photographed stumbling out of high-end bars and nightclubs late at night, creating the illusion that I was spiraling. News like that, passed through the company grapevine, would inevitably reach Kevin, who would be watching our every move. And he would undoubtedly report this good news back to Warren Hayes of Vanguard. Hayes was a suspicious man, but he was also a greedy one. The prospect of an internal power struggle at Reed Industries was an opportunity he couldn't resist. He would push Kevin to get his hands on that postponed succession plan, both to verify the intel and to find our moment of weakness. The fish was getting very close to the hook. Step 3. Prepare the bait. My father and I, along with a few of our most trusted executives, secretly drafted a fake succession plan. The document was a work of art, flawless on the surface, detailing a 3-year plan for restructuring Reed Industries shareholdings. But buried deep within its pages was a poison pill. We invented a massive, can't-miss overseas investment opportunity. The fake plan suggested that Reed Industries was preparing to go all in on this project, even leveraging the company's core assets to secure it. This project was the poison we had prepared for Vanguard. If they believed the plan was real, they would do everything in their power to snatch this golden goose of a project out from under us. And behind that project was a capital trap we had already set, one that would lead them to financial ruin. With everything in place, all we needed was for our rat, Kevin, to deliver the bait. To make the performance convincing, I called him. When he picked up, there was a long, awkward silence. "Let's get a drink," I said, my voice deliberately tired and broken. "The old spot we used to go to." Kevin was clearly surprised. He hesitated, then finally agreed. "Okay." At the bar, the lights were low. I ignored him, downing glass after glass of whiskey. "Did you just call me here to watch you get wasted?" Kevin finally asked, his tone a mix of guilt and impatience. I slammed my glass down and looked up at him, my eyes bloodshot. "Kevin, I just don't get it. 20 years. Why?" His eyes flickered away. He couldn't meet my gaze. "Caleb, I'm sorry," he muttered. I lost my head. "Was it about the money?" I pressed. He gave a slow, silent nod. "Huh." A bitter laugh escaped my lips. "Just for money? What did Chloe promise you? Or were you two planning this from the start?" My question hit its mark. Kevin's expression tightened. "No," he denied it instantly. I just really fell for Chloe. I know I screwed up, but I couldn't help it. Keep acting, I thought, a cold sneer forming in my mind. On the outside, I just looked broken. Because of this, my dad has completely lost faith in me. The board seat, the promotion, it's all gone. He said I'm a poor judge of character, that I'm not fit to lead. As I spoke, I accidentally let a USB drive slip from my jacket pocket onto the leather couch between us. Kevin's eyes darted to it instantly. I pretended not to notice, slumping forward onto the table. "It's all over. Everything's gone," I mumbled. After a moment, I feigned passing out. Kevin called my name a few times. When I didn't respond, his gaze fell greedily on the USB drive. He glanced around the bar, and then, with lightning speed, snatched the drive and shoved it into his pocket. After that, he pulled me up, playing the part of the concerned friend. "My buddy's had too much," he told the bartender. "I'm taking him home." He drove me to my parents' house, handed me over to them at the door, and then sped off. I knew exactly where he was going, straight to his real master to report his victory. And I was right. The very next day, our inside source at Vanguard confirmed it. Warren Hayes had held a secret, late-night meeting with his top executives. The sole topic of discussion was a brand new overseas renewable energy project. He was forming a special task force to pursue it with everything they had. It was the exact project for my fake plan. They had taken the bait. For the next 2 weeks, Vanguard operated like a company possessed. They marshaled an enormous amount of capital and began maneuvering aggressively in the international market. Through various channels, they made contact with the shell corporation we had set up as the fake project owner and started making outrageously generous offers. Meanwhile, at Reed Industries, we did nothing. We just watched. My father, reviewing the daily intelligence reports, couldn't help but marvel. "Caleb, this move of yours, giving them enough rope to hang themselves. You're even better at this than I was." I smiled, but there was no warmth in it. To hunt a wolf, you have to be more cunning and more vicious than the wolf itself. Kevin, believing he had pulled off the coup of a lifetime, became arrogant. He even had the gall to contact Leo, offering to negotiate a settlement with Chloe. His terms? I had to drop all lawsuits against her, and they would, at most, return half of the cash gift and give up their claim on the condo. He was delusional. I told Leo to stall, to give him the impression that a deal was still possible. At the same time, Chloe, facing a barrage of court summonses and police inquiries, was starting to panic. Her online smear campaign had been obliterated by our legal counterattack. She was now facing not just financial ruin, but the very real possibility of a prison sentence for both fraud and defamation. She started calling and texting me frantically, begging for forgiveness. I ignored every single message. There was no going back. From the moment they chose to betray me, their fate was sealed. The final showdown was coming. 1 month later, Vanguard Dynamics issued a triumphant press release. They announced that they had beaten out several international competitors to secure the exclusive development rights for the Blue Star renewable energy project in South America, with a staggering investment of $500 million. The announcement sent shockwaves through the industry. Everyone was stunned by Vanguard's bold, high-stakes move. Their stock price soared, hitting the market limit up for 3 consecutive days. Warren Hayes' office was filled with champagne and celebration. He clapped Kevin on the back, his face beaming. "Kevin, you're the hero of the hour. When the profits from this project start rolling in, You're going to be a very rich man. Kevin's face was flushed with excitement. It was all your brilliant strategy, Mr. Hayes. They had no idea that the winning hand they thought they were holding was about to become their death warrant. The day after Vanguard's announcement, we contacted the nation's top financial news outlets and scheduled a press conference. My father, Richard Reed, chairman of Reed Industries, took the stage himself. He began by recounting the long history of business rivalry between Reed Industries and Vanguard Dynamics. Then his tone shifted, becoming grave. Business competition is normal. But we never imagined that some companies would resort to such despicable, shameless tactics to get ahead. With that, he signaled for the first piece of evidence to be displayed on the large screen behind him. The email chain between Kevin Ford and Warren Hayes, along with the bank records of the $1 million wire transfer. Kevin Ford, a former employee in our marketing department, has for the past year been systematically leaking our company's most sensitive trade secrets to our competitor, Vanguard Dynamics, causing our company significant financial damage. His actions constitute a serious federal crime. A roar went through the assembled press corps. Cameras flashed like a strobe light. Before they could even process that bombshell, my father dropped another. But what is even more appalling is that in their desperation to steal our corporate strategy, Vanguard Dynamics orchestrated a honey trap. They instructed Kevin Ford to conspire with his girlfriend, Chloe Martin, to feign a relationship and a marriage with my son, Caleb Reed, for the sole purpose of using that relationship to steal our confidential succession plan. On the screen, a new video played, a clipped version of the footage from the bridal suite. The audio was crystal clear as Kevin and Chloe discussed the prenup, splitting my fortune, and getting their hands on the succession plan. This is blatant corporate espionage. This is fraud of the highest order. My father's voice thundered with righteous anger. The press conference descended into chaos. This wasn't just business news. This was the plot of a blockbuster thriller. But the climax was yet to come. Finally, my father spoke again, his voice now calm and cutting. In response to Vanguard's despicable actions, Reed Industries decided to fight back. They went to such great lengths, using Kevin Ford to steal a copy of our succession plan, didn't they? He let out a cold, sharp laugh. I can now tell you, with full confidence, that the plan they stole was, from beginning to end, a complete fabrication. And the so-called Blue Star Renewable Energy Project mentioned in that plan, that was also a fiction, a trap designed specifically for Vanguard Dynamics. A dead silence fell over the room. Jaws dropped. Reporters stared, dumbfounded, unable to believe what they were hearing. The $500 million project that Vanguard announced yesterday, the project owner they invested in is a shell company we established months ago. The $500 million they invested has already, through a series of legally ironclad capital transactions, been entirely diverted to us. In other words, Vanguard's massive investment, thanks to a meticulously crafted and perfectly legal derivatives contract and asset transfer structure, has now become the rightful profit of Reed Industries. My father's words were like a nuclear bomb. The room, after 3 seconds of stunned silence, exploded. Reporters surged toward the stage, shouting questions like machine gun fire. Mr. Reed, is this true? Did you really just orchestrate a hostile takeover of $500 million? When did this plan begin? Were Kevin Ford and Chloe Martin just pawns in your game from the start? Is this not a form of malicious corporate fraud? My father held up a hand, his presence alone silencing the crowd. Let me be clear. This was not fraud, he said, his gaze sweeping across the room. This was a legal and justified counterattack against a despicable and illegal assault on our company. Every transaction was conducted within the bounds of the law. We simply used our opponent's greed against them. We taught them a very expensive lesson. As for Vanguard, they shouldn't be worried about the $500 million. They should be worried about the impending full-scale investigations from the SEC and the Department of Justice. As he finished speaking, the wail of sirens grew louder outside the hotel. Everyone turned in shock. At that exact moment, in the Vanguard Dynamics Tower, Warren Hayes and Kevin Ford were watching the live stream of the press conference. When they heard the words "plan was a fake" and $500 million is our profit, the blood drained from their faces, leaving them a ghastly white. The champagne flute in Hayes' hand slipped, shattering on the marble floor. He trembled, pointing a shaking finger at the image of Richard Reed on the screen, his lips moving but no words coming out. No, impossible. That's impossible, Kevin muttered, his world collapsing around him. He couldn't accept that the masterstroke he thought he'd delivered was actually his own death sentence. He thought he was the hunter, but he was just a clown in the real predator's game. The office door burst open. A team of federal agents swarmed in. The lead agent flashed a badge and a warrant. Warren Hayes, Kevin Ford, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit economic espionage, wire fraud, and theft of trade secrets. You're coming with us. The cold steel of handcuffs snapped shut around their wrists. In that instant, all of Kevin's arrogance, defiance, and bitterness evaporated, replaced by pure, abject terror. He was dragged out like a sack of garbage. As he was led through the lobby, he saw the news still playing on the big screen TVs, saw the face of my father, calm, triumphant, the victor. He finally understood. The gap between us was never about being born rich. It was about a difference in intelligence, vision, and will that was as wide as the ocean. At the same time, another team of police officers knocked on the door of the Martin residence. Chloe was already overwhelmed by my lawsuits and the police investigation. Her online sob story had become a running joke in the face of the evidence. When she saw the police and heard the words, accomplice to felony fraud, she completely broke down, throwing herself at her parents. Dad, Mom, help me. I don't want to go to jail. Her father stared at the daughter who had utterly destroyed their family's name. Unable to speak, looking as if he had aged 30 years in a single moment. Her mother simply fainted. Chloe's desperate cries earned her no sympathy, only a pair of cold handcuffs and the contemptuous stares of her neighbors. The life of luxury she had dreamed of had ended before it began, her final destination a cold, unforgiving prison cell. The saga, which the media dubbed the Wedding Gate Conspiracy, came to a close in a way no one could have predicted. Vanguard Dynamics stock went into a death spiral, and the company, facing insolvency, soon declared bankruptcy. In a final, ironic twist, Reed Industries acquired Vanguard's most valuable assets during the liquidation auction for pennies on the dollar, cementing our position as the undisputed leader of the industry. A few days later, I visited Kevin in the county jail. He was wearing a standard-issue orange jumpsuit, his head shaved. The swagger and arrogance were gone, replaced by a hollow, defeated emptiness. When he saw me, a flicker of hatred ignited in his dull eyes. You knew all along, didn't you? You set the whole thing up just to watch me walk right into it like an idiot. I looked at him as if he were a stranger. Kevin, I once considered you my brother. I gave you more chances than you deserved. You chose to betray me every single time. You were jealous of me. You resented me, but you never stopped to think that everything you envied was built by my parents' decades of hard work. You just wanted a shortcut. You just wanted to take what wasn't yours. I stood up, looking down at him for the last time. You always said I was just born lucky. You were right. But what you'll never understand is that it takes more wisdom and courage to protect what your family built than it does to just be born into it. Enjoy your time in here. The 20 years we had between us, they ended the moment you stabbed me in the back. I turned and walked away without a second glance. As for Chloe, she was convicted on multiple counts of conspiracy to commit fraud and defamation and was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison. My civil suits were also a sweeping success. Not only was the $250,000 gift returned in full and her name removed from the condo's deed, but she was also ordered to pay me $1 million in damages for defamation. Her parents had to sell their family home to cover the costs, forever shamed among their friends and relatives. The storm passed. Life returned to a new normal. But my name was now known throughout the business world. Everyone knew that the quiet, unassuming heir to the Reed fortune was a player whose methods were even more decisive and ruthless than his father's. I officially took my seat on the board of Reed Industries and began taking over more of the company's core operations. 6 months later, I stood in my office on the top floor of the Reed Industries tower, looking out at the sprawling carpet of city lights below. My father came and stood beside me, handing me a glass of red wine. He clapped me on the shoulder. You did good, son. Better than I would have. I clinked my glass against his and smiled. You were a good teacher. We shared a look, a silent understanding passing between us. That ugly chapter of my life hadn't broken me. It had forged me. It taught me about the depths of human greed and depravity, but also taught me how to use my mind and my power to protect everything I hold dear. Sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows, chasing away the last of the shadows. That whole affair wasn't a tragedy. It was just the opening act, a loud, dramatic, and magnificent coronation for the life that was truly about to begin. My future was just getting started.